Welcome back to the channel, fellow Berserk fans. It's your boy Sleven. As you can see in the title, this is an update and analysis for the most recent chapter 364. This is not a review. I already have a review of the chapter out on my channel and gave my thoughts in that video, which I will link in the description and will have pop up here. I'm calling this an update because a commenter by the name of Tattooed Panda has made it aware to me that I had read the shorter version of the 364 release. This time around, I was able to read the full chapter with updated sequences between panels, English translation, conversations, and interactions between characters. So shout out to her. I'm presuming because of your avatar, but if I have your gender wrong, I apologize. Either way, you the real MVP for this. Before we get on, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new here and or appreciate the content I provide to stay locked in with new Berserk and other fascinating videos coming down the pipeline. Now without further ado, let's do a deep dive of chapter 364. Immediately starting off the chapter, we pick up where 363 ended, where the Moonlight Boy is approaching Guts and Guts decides to break the ice by asking why he's here. In this instance, the Moonlight Boy seems to move swiftly around Guts to climb on his back before he can realize. Now, we know that the Moonlight Child is special, like supernaturally special, but here we see that he is physically gifted to the point where he can move so fast even for Guts' eyes that have been honed through battle with humans and apostles. On the next page, we witness Isma, Shirke, Ishidro, and Serpico, Puck and Evalira getting ready to have dinner when Guts enters the cabin with the child on his shoulders, annoyingly pulling on his hair. Shirke instantaneously recognizes him, and Guts replies by saying he picked him up outside. Serpico is the only one who picks up on Guts' choice of words, as this island cannot be easily accessed by anyone from the outside world. Isma says, "We saw you on my island, did you swim here?" Which is a callback to chapter 317 when Casca as Elaine ran in the midst of danger to shield the child when the sea monster was attacking the crew on Isma's home island. While everyone is ecstatic and surprised to see him, Shirke goes on to make a wild assumption presuming he is the Flower Storm monarch in disguise. But that assumption is quickly debunked once the Nan walks in on the crew holding dessert for dinner, leaving Shirke in a state of embarrassment as Isma, Ishidro, and Puck poke fun at her for being wrong. While everyone else is busy making fun of Shirke, the child is frantically looking around, and Guts notices and instinctively knows what he wants. So he grabs him off his shoulders, puts him down, and asks directly to Shirke to take him up to Casca, which she agrees to, and all three proceed to take him upstairs to Casca. They both lock eyes and the child runs into Casca's arms as they embrace each other. Casca is puzzled and asks how he got to Elfhelm, which prompts Farnese to ask if Casca actually remembers him. Casca answers that she does and recollects that he always appeared during a full moon, sparking Danan's curiosity and leading to Shirke explaining to Danan her theory in full and why she suspected that the boy was her in disguise, which is a callback to chapter 317 when Shirke started to put two and two together for her theory and how he is connected to full moons. Danan proceeds to explain why Shirke mistook him for her, because he has a pure aura which is similar to that of a fairy, but she only came to know of their journey due to a message from Flora. Danan goes on to explain the fact that he is able to set foot on the island signifies that he has no ill intent, that the island's fate, quote unquote, guided him to Elfhelm, going on to explain that the island's fate is a culmination of its inhabitants, which would now include Shirke, Farnese, and Casca, due to the fact that they wear garbs that belong to the island and that they have been taken in as inhabitants of the island. Therefore, since Casca is now an inhabitant of the island, her connection to the child and the island in a way gives him a pass to set foot on Elfhelm. The next page reveals that Casca and the child were successfully able to spend the night together as they come downstairs to greet everyone with a good morning. As Isidro walks in, something incredible happens. The child speaks to him casually, surprising Ishidro, which is a bit of surprise to us the readers as well, because there have been no prior instances in the story where he spoke or shown the ability of speech. Ishidro responds with, "Not evaporating this morning?" Which is a callback to chapter 328, where the crew realized the child had disappeared, and Shirke explains his significance to the full moons, and that is when magical forces are at their strongest, deducing that he has no malintent like goblins, but is innocent like an elf, which gave her the idea that he was an emissary or the Flower Storm monarch himself. He appears on the night of a full moon, and as soon as the dawn appears, he disappears. Oh shit, that kind of rhymed. The Nan proceeds to explain that the flow of time on the island is faster than the outside world, where one evening on the outside can equal to several days passing on the island, which is a callback to chapter 342 and Isma's mother explaining to the crew as they step foot on the elf helm to be wary of the flow of time on the island, and that prolonged stay can cut off their connection to the outside world. Shirke goes on to suggest, in that case, it would be nice to spend time with the child, and Casca agrees. In the next pages and panels, we witness everyone experiencing some downtime together with the child. What's most important, you can see Casca's new temperament in every instance worrying and panicking after a boy like a mom, which goes to show that Judo deduced during Guts and Griffith's second duel that she has changed and became more feminine without realizing. Here, Serpico interjects that this peaceful downtime has allowed the crew to become like a family, minus Guts of course, which segues into the next scene of Guts alone training and swinging his sword at a waterfall, but after his second swing, he loses grip of his sword and it falls into the water. Realizing that he metaphorically and physically is losing his grip, he tries using one of his throwing knives to hit a hanging fruit and barely misses it. Right after, two peculiar panels show Guts' eye and a faded image of the fruit on the tree. A callback to chapter 237, where the Skull Knight warned him what would happen if he continues to use the Berserker armor excessively. Specifically the part where he says, "Color fades from the eyes, the tongue loses taste, and shivering plagues the fingertips." This instance indicates that using the armor is sapping his life force. He is becoming weaker, where he can barely hold his sword, barely eats, and now he is losing his vision. Also would like to point out how this panel of the faded fruit looks like an eye, personifying what Gus's vision is turning into. Then we have a really adorable scene where the child breaks off from the others and crashes Gus's alone time by trying to don his armor. He tries to run off but ends up adorably falling on his face. Guts picks him up and the child picks up a stick to fence with Guts. After a short playful fencing session, he rubs his head. Then the others along with Casca come looking for him, so Guts takes the armor off him and tells him to go over to them. When he reunites with Casca and the others, Guts makes sure that he is hidden so that Casca can't see him. This whole moment exemplifies Guts' evolution, unlike the Black Swordsman we met in chapter 1. Through his minor moment of training, we see Guts has learned to accept things that he cannot control, unlike the Daredevil we knew in the Golden Age. The moment he had with the Moonlight Child exemplifies his newfound patience, where in the past, during the Black Swordsman arc, children like Isidro and childlike beings like Puck would be an annoyance to Guts. It's as a Skull Knight said to him, his journey is at an end. Guts is not the struggle anymore. Instead, he has evolved to become a protector of Casca, role model to Isidro, and now a father figure. Also, it shows that the Moonlight Child understood Guts' plight and has come to offer some form of company to reassure that he is appreciated for his forced solitude. The next sequence of panels, we witness Casca laid up with the child, but dreaming about her memories from when she was Elaine to figure out where the child comes from. Once she figures out that she knew him before becoming Elaine, an image of her holding the demon child and the evil spirits surrounding them comes to fruition as she wakes up. It's evident that she realizes this is her child with Guts. Then turning in panic to realize that the boy is gone, looking out the window to see Guts and the child outside. As she rushes outside past Shirke, and as she steps outside the front door, coincidentally, the boy starts to speak, which leaves Guts in shock. The boy's cryptic speech stating, "I had a dream. I was a child embraced by nostalgic warmth. Under the full moon, but when I wake from the dream, only a vague sense of longing remains. That, too, will soon disappear, with a single tear like morning dew, ending in the form of Griffith shedding tears." Now with these words, most folk would relate it to the times that the Moonchild would maneuver through the branches of the World Tree during the full moon to come in contact with Casca, and then would suddenly disappear. But this speech is just a message for the first time all three were together, the same night he was conceived by Casca. Think back, that night that Guts ran out because he realized that the eclipse was not a bad dream. The night that Casca prematurely gave birth in front of Guts and the Skull Knight, while surrounded by evil spirits under a full moon. The minute Guts tried to stomp the fetus, Casca shielded and embraced it with the warmth of her body, While Guts grabbed the fetus and tried to kill it, its gaze showed it longed for its parents' embrace. And in the midst of Casca struggling with Guts, the sun came up and he disappeared. Realizing that their child was cursed, both Guts and Casca shed tears. Funny thing is, this has become a repeated instance. The child would appear, Casca would embrace the child, but Guts would be distant. And come to the morning, he would disappear. This is what Casca's dream meant. She figured out that the child is the fetus she prematurely gave birth to that night after the eclipse, which is why she rushed out and did not have a panic attack seeing Guts. If I presume correctly, the child has provided the closure for Casca's subconscious to accept what has happened between her, Guts, and Griffith during the eclipse. This chapter was a culmination of everything that transpired from the Black Swordsman arc up to now, to help Guts and Casca move forward from the eclipse. But what's puzzling is that the Moonchild was allowed to come to Elfhelm because he had no ill intent along with his connection to Casca and Guts. Now that he's transformed back into Griffith aka Femto, who doesn't necessarily bear ill intent towards the two, he is in opposition to the Black Swordsman party being a God Hand member. Will the island respond in defense, or will he be able to freely roam around without harm? It's interesting because in the end, it looks as if Griffith is showing his emotion towards Guts and Casca, but we know this is the doing of the child's body that he is possessing. There's an excerpt at the end that is addressing the fans of Kentaro Media, and the release of Volume 41 to be in December, but no definite confirmation of whether Studio Gaga or Young Animal will continue or discontinue the series. Yet at the end of the chapter, it says end, where it usually says to be continued. To me, this would signify that this is the end of the series publication, but I don't necessarily have an issue with his closest associates and assistants to continue his work if Miura had the intent. My suggestion for them would be to try their hand at attempting to continue up to maybe 2 or 3 chapters as an experiment to see whether the audience will be receptive. If not, then they can label those chapters as retcon and we can end the story at 364. If you enjoyed this analysis and breakdown, don't hesitate to drop a like and hit that subscribe button to help the channel with continued success. I always appreciate those who give my content a full watch and engage with it. It is highly appreciated. If you wanted to hear my full review and thoughts on the future of Berserk and upon release of the chapter, my previous video review in 364 is up on the channel. You know the vibes. It's Kaizoku Sleven. Appreciate you.